know who I am?
I knew that The Departed was based on Infernal Affairs, this Chinese film that had come out around the time when I got the script, but it was immediately something that was attractive because, of course, Martin Scorsese's involvement.
The script in this picture was based on these extraordinary Chinese films and Hong Kong cinema. That one could translate to another ethnic group in a different place. And so for me, it's more about the people and more about the attitude of life, the philosophy of life that they have.
They would say we could become cops or criminals. What I'm saying is this: when you're facing a loaded gun, what's the difference?
It is a gangster movie, but it deals with a different sort of set of circumstances in a completely different environment.
Yeah, well, that's it, basically.
He's made all these kinds of movies throughout his career. He's the king of movies like this.
And so I tend to gravitate towards these stories. It's just turned out that way. Although if you look at the amount of pictures I made, there's only about 5 of them out of 20 pictures that are dealing with that world. But apparently they get a lot of attention. Where I grew up was a small area downtown off of the Bowery between Houston and Canal Street called Little Italy. And all the Italians that migrated there from the 19th century and the beginning of the 20th century couldn't take advantage of the opportunities a new country afforded you, particularly this country, because of the nature of who these people were. They had to walk a line without education, living in their neighborhood, not knowing any English, speaking very little English.
When we talk about Martin Scorsese, you have to start with his upbringing in Little Italy. It was a tightly knit immigrant community where the people did not entirely trust the establishment.
The sense of morality came mainly from the family. There were a lot of really hard-working stiffs, you know, like my father and my uncles. They all went to work. And my father was sort of always walking the line between being very respectful towards certain kinds of people and living a normal life. They worked out their own system, and a lot of this was coming from the villages, in the tradition of village elders. A village elder would come in, help alleviate a problem between a father and a daughter, a son-in-law and a father-in-law, and this sort of thing. Ultimately, I would think, and I'm not a total authority on this, but a lot of these power structures were set up within what became organized crime.
You're gonna pay? Just give us the fucking money!
I think it's been well established that Marty has a beyond working knowledge of organized crime and the mafia from where he grew up in New York.
There were the kids who were sort of being primed to go into organized crime.
Never rat on your friends, and always keep your mouth shut.
That we kind of were friends with, but didn't really go along with. And I was sort of one who was going back and forth to these different groups and became like an observer and sort of lived by my wits because of my asthma. I couldn't run, I couldn't fight, I couldn't do anything, basically. They kept me in the school, I went to movie theaters, and they kept me in the church. So I was considered like this sort of a freak that was kept in the corner, and yet I was able to still bounce back and forth between these different groups and live these lives. Ultimately, it's reflected in Mean Streets, really, of myself and my friends.
Listen, Tony, I gotta borrow your car. We ought to take a ride. We shouldn't be around here now. Okay. Don't go driving around. Go to a movie or something. This is no good. All right? You know what I mean?
This is his life. Basically, the Harvey Keitel character, this tortured Italian Roman Catholic who wants to do something good in his life and doesn't know how because the people that he lives with live by a code of the street.
You live with it. You live with that violence. You don't... The thing to do is not to get in the violence or not to be the subject of the violence. If you couldn't really stand up to them, if you couldn't physically stand up to them, you had to sort of gain some sort of respect by, you know, by using your head, really.
When you look back on Scorsese's influences, he's growing up, he's watching movies all the time, and movies, as a child, were really something exotic, took him to another place, and really interesting, maybe even evil, maybe violent things were going on.
One one of my fondest memories, my father taking me to see a double bill of Public Enemy and Little Caesar. Public Enemy, directed by William Wellman, Jimmy Cagney, and Little Caesar, directed by Mervyn LeRoy, starring Edward G. Robinson.
Sam, you can dish it out, but you're getting so you can't take it no more. You're through.
My father liked the Warner Brothers pre-code pictures. Warner Brothers was always tougher with their genre pictures. Even if there was Angels with Dirty Faces, they were still tougher.
So the movies he's attracted to tend to be movies like White Heat.
I love you, Cody. I love you.
Let Ma die.
No.
Yeah. Didn't even raise a finger to help her. You just stood there and watched Big Ed kill her.
Like Public Enemy.
You dirty double-crossing.
In Public Enemy, William Wellman did something very special. He got an okay from the studio to make the picture as tough as possible. Interestingly, in Public Enemy, none of the violence is on screen. It's all off screen. The killing of Putty Nose. The camera pans away. You see the reaction on Tom Powers' friend.
Big and fat, slipped on the ice and broke her.
The ending is probably the strongest ending of any of those movies. They told his mother that he's coming back home from the hospital. His mother's upstairs preparing for her son, and she's putting the bed together, and his brother goes to answer the door. And I think, the famous ending is with the body is just delivered and just hits the floor. And the brother just looks down and sees he's dead, and then slowly walks towards the camera, and he's going upstairs to tell his mother that indeed her son is home, but he's dead. And he shoots in a some people criticize crude way. I don't see it as crude. I just see it as straight, honest. And Cagney, of course, his performance made him a star.
Oh, that dirty, no-good, yellow-bellied stool. I'm going to give her that Putty Nose right in the head the first time I see him.
Yeah? You and who else?
Cagney, this out-of-control person. You don't know what he's going to do next, but you think, I better stand back just a little bit.
Sonny, you're a real fucking mutt. You know the money we spend in this fucking...
Come on, don't be like that.
What do you mean don't be like that?
Joe Pesci wasn't born, but, he was coming, and this was what we were going to see.
What the fuck are you looking at? You're fucking...
Goodfellas relates directly to the Roaring Twenties.
Sending you over 100 cases in the morning.
I don't need 100 cases.
You take them. You don't want to hurt our feelings, do you?
What's interesting for me was that it was the day-to-day life, hour to hour, of a foot soldier in the mob.
Henry, I need suits, Henry, not coats. Suits are coming Thursday. I know, but this is the middle of the fucking summer. What am I going to do with fur coats?
In White Heat, also, you get something that ties into The Departed.
My orders was nobody was to leave.
Well, that might go for hoods like him. When I got a reason to leave, I leave.
Edmund O'Brien is an undercover guy in this movie.
A cop.
Sympathetic towards the Edmund O'Brien character. I kind of liked him for some reason. Not that you like Cody, you're kind of fascinated by Cody.
Here's to us, top of the world.
And you kind of, heart goes out to him, especially when he's sitting on his mother's lap.
Don't let him see you like that. Might give some of them ideas.
Always thinking about your Cody, aren't you?
But he's a monster. He's played by Cagney.
How you doing, Parker?
Stuffy in here. I need some air.
Oh, stuffy, huh? I'll give it a layer.
You can't help it when people like that play those parts. You're attracted to that guy, that character.
Catch.
And that is what Scorsese's feeling too. He wants that energy for this madness. He's attracted and repelled at the same time.
The other one was interesting as Scarface with Paul Muni.
Listen, little boy, in this business, there's only one law you gotta follow to keep out of trouble.
The film was very beautifully made, and part of the game that they played in the film was that when anybody was going to be killed, there was always an X in the frame somewhere.
Tony, don't! Tony!
So in this film, we put X's in many different places.
Fucking rat trap!
That's a direct reference to Scarface, more of a fun and for those who know. And then the other direct reference to Scarface is that there's a scene where they go to the opera, Francis Costello, he whistled the sextet from Lucia, and you knew somebody was going to get killed.
Hello, Louis.
I ain't so tough.
What I saw in those movies was the rise and the fall. The fall was most important.
Hated man! Top of the world! Rocky. No. No. I'll do anything.
Oh, no, you won't. You got your last chance, and you take this with you. I never let go of those papers. All you had to do was bump me off.
Particularly people who were, in a way, had some of their lives dictated by people like this. At a certain point, it's like watching the fall of a king. The king may have been benevolent to you at certain times, but they still have the power over you. And they are human, and they will fall.
Edward G. Robinson and Little Caesar. I mean, how do you forget that death scene?
Mother of mercy. Is this the end of Rico?
Cagney and Bogart died in those movies. There was no happy ending and the ribbon tied up and over.
He used to be a big shot.
These are major influences on his career, and I think good influences, because it's too easy today in a formula-based Hollywood to just turn out the same thing over and over again.
That ain't our beer.
These are the people he knew on the streets.
You're yellow.
Anything you see that connected you with what you knew on the screen gave you a special relationship to that picture.
He'll tell you about On the Waterfront being that kind of a movie. He knew those people. Elia Kazan had made a movie about the guys in his neighborhood. Maybe he could do that too.
This was an explosion of something happening in American society that was just bursting out. A new kind of reality found itself on the screen. But it didn't stop with American movies. I became even more excited by foreign films, the opening up of other cultures through foreign films. And once I got there, once I began to see the early Ingmar Bergman films, all the Kurosawa, all of this stuff made me think that I could tell a story. It gave me a passion to tell a story.
Hey, listen, can I get my hat? Go. Can I call my wife?
And motion pictures were getting not easier to make, but more accessible to make. And the equipment getting smaller and smaller. Anything was possible, so why not just try?
I'm gonna tie one of his legs to that Cadillac bumper over there. I'm gonna tie the other to the Ford, and boom!
Mean Streets basically opens at the New York Film Festival. And people were saying, well, who is this guy? But nobody knew. And then they sat there and they watched this and they said, what was that? It's that kind of movie.
You dirty two-faced fucking bastard! Don't hit me again! Don't!
And you want to know more. You want to say, did he do anything else before this? Is he going to do something else after it? Who is this guy? And I'm telling you, that happens very, very rarely. I'm sitting here. I'm a movie critic. I've done it for 20 years. I don't see this very often, so that was a really exciting time.
There has certainly been an evolution in filmmaking from the gangster films back in the 1930s and 40s to the gangster movies that we have today. They're so much more realistic. In Martin Scorsese's films, the portrayal of gangster life.
Henry, here's an arm.
Very funny, guys.
It's a wing.
The portrayal of the individual psychology of each gangster is incredibly well done.
You haven't even called or anything. Where have you been?
Well, Mom, I've been working nights.
And?
Well, tonight we were out late. We took a ride out to the country, and we hit one of those deers. That's where the blood came from, I tell you.
Whether he goes back in time in Gangs in New York, brutal.
The violence in my movies, it's kind of matter of fact, and it's not glamorized.
What do you want, fucko? You want some? Huh?
Oh, hey!
I've got to tell you, I put the violence in my films the way I experienced, the way I saw it at the corner of my eye.
You wasted 8 fucking aprons on this guy.
And I know the visceral reaction I had. And that's the only way I put it on the screen, to be as truthful as possible. It's not for everybody. These are R-rated pictures.
All right. Fucking move. Get easy.
There's a lot of use of vulgar language. There's a lot of violence. It's not gratuitous, in my opinion. This is the way it is. And to clean it up, I think, wouldn't do service to what Martin Scorsese is actually trying to portray.
Mean Streets comes out in 1973, and the reaction is extraordinary. But this is in the middle of Midtown Manhattan with a lot of people who would never, even if they were shocked, admit to it. Not me, I'm not shocked, no. But of course, everyone was. Everyone was saying, well, this is moving it to another level.
Hey, lady, I'm sorry, lady. I didn't mean it. I swear to God.
Mean Streets is about what the character says at the beginning about religion, about atoning for your sins.
Pain in hell has two sides. The kind you can touch with your hand, the kind you can feel in your heart, your soul, the spiritual side.
One doesn't atone for the sin inside a little edifice that's called a church, but you do it in the streets. And you do it with the people you deal with every day. And how does one deal with that moral concept in a world that is corrupt?
Watch yourself. Don't spoil anything. Honorable men go with honorable men.
There's always in him a sense of a character who's trying to do the right thing.
Charlie, this is business. Well, then be realistic, Michael. Where's he to come up with $3,000, huh? Let's work something out.
In Mean Streets, Charlie, the Harvey Keitel character, really wants to take care of De Niro's Johnny Boy.
Fucking asshole. You stupid bastard. Were you gonna use that?
Usually, what I'm interested in, I find that it's about people, basically good people, forced to do bad things.
Hi, Mom. What do you think?
Because they have no other choice.
Look at my shoes. Aren't they great?
My God. You look like a gangster.
And so Scorsese gives us not what he wants us to believe, not what he's saying to the audience, all you young people out there, this is the job for you, you gotta do it. But how people get sucked into this.
Why, will you get permission from your mother?
How many pounds you need?
What? Where'd you get those cigarettes?
Get him out of
right.
here.
Get him out of here.
To me, Goodfellas is the all-time classic of what organized crime is. I think that's the most accurate portrayal of any movie that I've seen on organized crime.
You know, Goodfellas comes out in 1990, and whenever there's a mob movie of any kind, it has to come up against The Godfather, and people saying, well, you know, wasn't The Godfather the ultimate mob movie? Well, it may be, but The Godfather in many ways is romanticized.
Very, very few mobsters wind up like Vito Corleone in The Godfather. Most of them either wind up dead, they wind up in jail, or they wind up completely broke.
I thought it was very accurate. He captured the whole lifestyle to perfection. It was really kind of eerie to watch it. It was probably one of the best movies ever on the criminal lifestyle.
Anyway, you know what reminds me, I need this knife. I'm gonna take this, it's okay?
Okay, yeah.
I just need it for a
Bring
little
it
while.
back, though, you know.
It captures the venality of these guys. Obviously, the Joe Pesci character, and that was a sociopath.
Pesci was brilliant and is always brilliant in depicting this particular type of individual.
I used to call him Spit Shine Tommy. I swear to God, he'd make your shoes look like fucking mirrors.
Who has deep feelings of inadequacy.
No more shines, Billy.
Constantly trying to compensate for it.
I'm only kidding with you.
Sometimes you don't sound like you're kidding. You know, there's a lot of people around.
Making his character very disturbing.
I'm sorry. I don't mean to offend you.
I'm sorry, too. It's okay, no problem.
Okay, salute. Now go home and get your fucking shine box.
Motherfucking...
The whole notion of respect, I think, is very, very important and brought out really, really well, particularly in Goodfellas.
No movie about crime, no movie about drugs, no movie about any of these things that get us into trouble that doesn't show the very real attraction of these things is lying. And Scorsese doesn't lie. There's a scene in Goodfellas that's so key in terms of Scorsese's work. And it's not just technically one of the great scenes, although it is, but it's more than that. It's about the attraction, and it's the scene in which Henry Hill takes his girlfriend to the Copacabana in New York, through a side door, down a very dark tunnel, into what seems like the most glamorous version of hell I would ever, ever, ever see in movies. He's in a gang that takes care of him, makes sure he does get to the Copacabana when he wants to impress a girl.
What do you do?
What?
What do you do?
I'm in construction. Casino set in Las Vegas, which I think is every mobster's dream of what their life may have been back on the mean streets of New York. It's gambling, it's women, there's violence always, but the sense of I could hit the jackpot.
Portray this in the most accurate manner to his audiences.
When you're working with somebody that is as intense and passionate about what they do and works on a certain level of, I don't want to say perfection, because what is perfection? But when somebody is a perfectionist like he is, it ramps everything and everyone around you up to a different level.
One day in particular, we've been filming from early in the morning, and there was a scene that occurred. Martin Sheen hands Leonardo a slip of paper, presumably with an amount of money on it, and Leo nods his head in an affirmative manner.
We have a question. Do you want to be a cop, or do you want to appear to be a cop?
After several shoots, Martin says, "Cut, get Duffy up here." He said, "How much should we pay him?" I'm thinking of paying him $25,000. No, this is a one-time payment. I said, "All right, why don't we give him $100,000? He says, "No, that's too much. I'm not paying him $100,000. I said, "All right, let's give him 50. We'll split the difference." The fact of what he's paid is never revealed in the movie. The audience never knows. It's irrelevant. But in Martin's mind, he had to know at that moment what was real and what wasn't real.
Do you know who I am?
No.
The Departed depicts gang life in an is different ethnic gangsters are all the same in terms of their psychology, but they bring their ethnicity with them.
Scorsese is doing a crime drama. I don't see how people could resist buying a ticket to that movie. So when you say Scorsese and crime drama, that seems to be enough.
It's every actor's dream to be able to be on one of his sets. I learned a lot watching him shoot this and watching him decide how he was going to shoot it.
That point, cut. That point, the guys come out.
He's always going to give us another side of it or show us another side of how the mob operates. Scorsese is always the kind of director that's going to say, "You don't know you want this yet, but I'm going to show you, and it might take me 3 movies until you realize it, but you will." And that's something to be admired.